Right? Every day, I go to a public place nearby my house, and for about a half an hour, three quarters of an hour, and I ask people, men, to put on tefillin, Jewish men to put on tefillin. There's a lot of Arabs there also. So if they don't care, if I ask them, I say, "Excuse me, are you Jewish? Are you Jewish?" They say no. I said, "God bless you." And it's a hospital, so they're bringing people in all the time, and the sick people that are there, they bring them in, and they're on stretchers and whatever the stretchers. I say, God said you feel you should be well, have good news. Arabs, Jews, everybody, same, all creations of God. But the main thing is that I want Jews to put on tefillin, men Jews to put on, ask an option, put on tefillin, and a lot of them do. So here's two stories about it. One story is that I asked the person. Now in Israel, you have to know there's a lot of Jews that don't put on tefillin, and there's a minority of Jews, but a very vociferous minority that are very, very opposed to anything that hints at Judaism. We're the chosen people. That's the worst. That's the worst. The chosen people. That's the cause of all our problems. That's the worst. But even to do a commandment, but on the other hand, they are Jews, and a lot of them are, in fact, very nice people. They're nice people but they are convinced of the Zionist ideal that we're going to be a nation like every other nation, and we're going to be a people like every other people, and we're going to be like everybody, and they're going to like us, and we're like them. Okay, so here's the story. So I'm standing. I was standing in this sort of a place where people are walking, and I asked this one fellow, "Would you like to put on tefillin, sir?" And he looks at me and he says, I'll translate it into English, "Go to hell. Go jump in the lake." Right? Lech lebinimat. He's really angry. So I say, "God bless you. You should have a good day. Have a good day." So the guy keeps walking. He's in like a big huff, walking, and he stops. And he comes back to me and he said, "I needed that. I needed that." So I said, "What do you mean?" "A good word. I needed a good word. Thank you." So I was very surprised. I said, "Okay, so put on tefillin." He said, "No way. What do you get out?" And so in other words, some people, they just need a good word. Some people go around all of life and know whatever he sees, it even says good morning to them. Say a good word. And I think that he sensed that I was not doing it for, a political purpose so that he wouldn't hate Chabad or something. I really wanted to say, good morning, God bless you to the guy. So he really felt it, and therefore he really appreciated it. And that put a little tiny bit of light into his dim day. I mean, the guy's in the hospital, is visiting somebody in the hospital, probably feels pretty bad. Okay, second story. For a while, Israel was bombed. Iran was shooting these missiles, and like every day there would be 5, 6 sirens. That's only in my area in the sentence, but in the northern part of Israel, the southern part of Israel, there was bombs all. It was huge, massive, bombs. They were 10 times as big as the ones that Saddam Hussein said. So there was always sirens. So the people in the hospital, they couldn't keep moving. They have underground places, so they have prepared. In Israel, we're always being bombed, right? So they have prepared in the hospital basements where you can put all of the patients where you put all the patients. So the basements are packed. There was 3 big basements, and they're filled with patients. They have oxygen there, and the whole story. I mean, it's pretty, how do you say, shocking situation over there. It's like, one of these scenes of, England in World War II, the whole Warsaw is bombed or something, like people living in the sewers. I mean, it wasn't sewers, but it was pretty bad. Anyway, so this was like right before they stopped the bombing. This was like 2 weeks ago, just like last week, before they stopped the ceasefire. There was 5 times every day there was sirens. Sometimes there was only 2 times a day. In the nighttime, in the middle of the night. So, I mean, just as an innuendo, I didn't go into the bomb shelters. I didn't go. The Rebbe said Israel is the safest place in the world, and that Kfar Chabad is the safest place in Israel. And I didn't go to the bomb. I was not the majority, and the majority of people ran into the bomb shelters. Especially, I don't hold it against them. It was scary. It was really scary. Anyway, So I went down into one of these the shelters, and there was this fellow sitting there. His mother was sitting there wringing her hands, and he was sitting there all bruised up. His eye was like totally swollen up, and he had these cuts and bandages like all over the place, and cuts on his face and he was laying there in the bed. So his mother said, "Oh, there's someone here with tefillin." He said, "Oh yes, yeah, I want to put on tefillin." He was a young guy, maybe in his late 20s, could be. You couldn't tell because his face was all puffy and it was all, I want to put on the villain. It's like in his dying moments, he was going to put on the villain. So I figured, okay, I'll put the villain. I hope the guy doesn't die in the middle of, they'll say I killed him. So he lifted his head up with great difficulty, and his mother was saying, "Oh, I'm so happy he's putting on the villain." It's like he's going to go down, with the tefillin on his head. So I put on tefillin on his arm, and I said, "Shema Yisrael." He said, "Shema Yisrael." I took the tefillin off. Oh, I was happy that he was still alive. And that's it. I said, you should know. I say this to everybody. I said, you should know that 80% of health is a positive attitude. In Hebrew, it comes out better. 80% mi briut ze matzav ruach. Oh, everybody smiles. Everybody likes that. They figure a religious guy, I'm going to say 80% is the Lord and the commandments and the Torah. I don't say that. I say, and it's true, 80% is having a proper attitude. Okay, so here this guy, and he's all bandaged up, and it's this, and I say 80% of being healthy is having a proper attitude. And his mother said, "Oh, yes, isn't that wonderful?" He said, okay. So I put the tefillin on some other people. And maybe like 20 minutes later, I go out from this basement and I go up. There's also this sort of like a garden where people sit around over there. And I go and ask people to put on tefillin. And I go to one person. I say, "Would you like to put?" I look at it, and it's this guy, the guy that was down, and then that I just put on tefillin. That he was like 90% dead. His puffed up face, the same thing. And he's sitting there in regular clothes. He hasn't got his pajamas on anymore. I said, "What happened?" He said, "I don't know." He said, "I put on tefillin." I put on tefillin, and you said you have to have a positive attitude. And I started to feel good. And I felt good. And I said to my mother, "Let's get out of here." And I put on clothes and I left. I mean, maybe he went back down there again. I don't know what happened. But the fact is that he did feel better and he looked better. So both of the stories are basically the same thing. That if you go to do something positive and you think positively, then the results are positive. And also, if we think positively about Mashiach, then the results will be positive with Mashiach now. Have a good Shabbos, everyone, with Mashiach now.